Yeah?
What?
Like this. Dun-dun-dun.
You let it record to the other side. Keep pulling.
Oh, my arm's too short. Okay. Ready?
Sorry, recording.
I know. We obviously cut this part out.
Are you sure?
Possibly.
Hopefully she doesn't.
Then...
Alicia.
Hi,
Oh, there you go.
Alicia.
I don't eat my chocolate.
Okay.
Not very professional of me. What is it? Unprofessional?
I don't know. You're the one who is a professional. Goes to work professionally.
So yeah, that's what this is.
Alicia and I just wing it and make everything.
If you're still watching this, Alicia, you might want to fast forward
I'll definitely.
for another minute or two. Welcome to the Waiting Warriors podcast. I'm just kidding. Gotcha. Reactions recorded even.
You're funny.
Oh, I'm smarter.
I'm smarter. My face is really
Was it-
shiny today. Oh well. Yeah.
Hey, glad to be here.
You can do a blooper section.
No, there are no bloopers. This is a one take.
Okay.
Make sure people know we have our phones out though. So I don't think
Yeah.
we're being rude texting while recording.
Basically, we would be the rudest of rudies.
I wouldn't be, but
You ready?
well, is my makeup okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Your
Eyebrows set? Posture good?
I asked if you were ready, and you just haven't said yes.
Well, I never say yes.
Then...
You have to be ready. Just kidding. Wouldn't do it.
You ready?
Sure.
Yeah, 2 minutes and 40 seconds for Alicia.
Nah. 45, 46,
Okay.
46.
We're gonna start.
You brought me onto this.
No, it's
It's your fault.
ready?
Sure.
And go. Hey, Waiting Warriors. Welcome to another week on the podcast. We have our favorite guest, Austin.
Thanks.
And if you're watching on YouTube, this is the first time you've seen his face.
Well, unless you follow the Instagram
That's
feed.
true. He sometimes, well, like pictures, but sometimes he'll poke it on stories. It's fun.
It's true.
But we wanted to do what I think is a fun episode, 20 lessons learned in 2020. And we learned a lot of things together. We learned a lot of things individually.
As hopefully everyone did in life.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
yes.
Hopefully. So if we look like we're rudely looking at our phones, we're not like texting or anything.
No.
We're just...
We're looking at our notes.
Yeah.
Because we actually wrote 10 each to make up our list of 20, but did not tell each other what 10 we wrote down.
Ooh.
So we thought that'd be kind of, So we thought that'd be kind of fun to both somewhat surprise each other, but then also make it, I would hope, a good lively conversation and not just super scripted.
Yeah.
So that way we can all learn.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll set the stage. How about that?
Okay.
I'll create some time. I know we just kind of set the stage, but a little bit more. We're trying to avoid some of the obvious lessons of 2020, like, for example, pandemics suck. Like that's, we all learned that, but that's not what we're writing down. There's things that are going to be like, obviously, due to the pandemic,
right?
We learned something. But yeah, like, cherish your loved ones. I mean, that's a good life lesson learned that, we probably took stuff for granted and all of that. But I at least tried to avoid some of that. I can't speak for you. Tried to make it more specific, though that's obviously a common thread through 2020.
Yeah.
So,
or at least like the explanations go deeper than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully. We'll see. See how deep we go. Deep like a puddle. Okay. Number 1.
Okay.
I wrote to learn from life and then apply. So, little story on this one. Because of work, I mean, every installation is doing things differently, but I had to quarantine twice. Once in July and then once in November.
Aside from your initial, when like everybody was at home.
Well, that was like the normal lockdown,
Right.
HB-Con
So you had
Charlie or
two
whatever.
times where like you
two
were
times where I had to get
exposed.
tested.
Yeah.
I was either potentially exposed or sick, and they were like, get tested, you go home and quarantine in your house.
Okay.
So the first time I was sick and it sucked. I was COVID negative, though I'm not convinced I was negative.
Conspiracy.
However, Michelle had already left with the children's because I was supposed to be in the field. And let's just say that those 2 weeks were miserable. I was sick, and mentally my health started to decline. I wasn't PTing. I did PT once and felt horrible the next day. It was just a grind, and some issues really perpetuated after that, which I'll get into more in some of my other lessons. But in the second quarantine in November, I had learned from the first. Now, in this second one, it was because of a potential exposure. So I wasn't feeling sick, and that changed things from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But I remembered that from the first time I was stuck at home, I needed to make sure I did exercise. Even if it was like minimal stuff, I needed to do an exercise pattern. I needed to have my set work schedule. I had to really get after the routines that I had set.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just trying to detach from it and take a bird's eye view. We go through life, and this is just a small example, and I know I can experience things, but then not apply the lessons I learned from them. But this was one instance where I really feel like I did, where I had a really crappy quarantine, and then the second one, well, it still kind of stunk, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I actually came out of it pretty much the same as I went into it, whereas the first one, that wasn't the case for a few months, and I'll get again to those details later.
Do you feel like because you did that, like you applied the principle of learning from and then actually applying, that it, like, testimony is the best word that I can think of, like gives you a testimony of actually doing that and motivates you to do that for other things?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's, I mean, the natural progression of growth in life.
Yeah.
But this one, I think because of such an extreme example.
Yeah, it was like close together.
That just when life happens and then something similar repeats, we really need to apply what we learned, or I at least want to apply what I learned in order to grow.
Yeah.
So that's my first one.
Awesome. Okay, my first one, I didn't like intentionally list them. His notes, guys, his notes are like really fancy looking. But that's kind of the difference between Austin and I. Anyways, the first one I have is that I don't, and you could put we don't, like, I don't control anything. Nothing. Except for my reaction to everything. But like there is literally nothing that I control. And like I kind of knew that before, but I think at the same time I still like tried to control everything. I kind of try to control our kids. I try to control how our marriage is. I couldn't obviously like control my life and my schedule, but this 2020 was like a huge just a big example of like I do not control it. We do not control it. And you were talking one day that you like heard on the radio these people talking like we should be so medically advanced that like the pandemic shouldn't be an issue, and we should have been beyond this by now or whatever. And it's
I think it was
like,
a news article. I haven't listened to the radio in like a year and a half.
News, radio, same thing. But like when he was telling me that, it's like, okay, but we don't control. Like, we don't control a virus. Like, do you know what I mean?
But we should.
But we're
no, but it's
like,
true.
I don't.
There's only so much that we can control.
Yeah, and I don't.
You can control the controllables,
right?
as Chris Hogan says,
which is like
that guy.
But even still, like,
Yeah.
that's basically.
But even those are very small things that
Yeah.
we have an influence over.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just like you don't control the virus. You don't control other people.
So
you don't control your
I'll
schedule.
push you a little on this. So you don't control it, and therefore what? Or is that just the lesson? Just accepting that?
I think it takes a lot to accept that you don't control it,
Okay.
but you control your reaction.
Got it. So that
And like,
awareness.
yeah, and like the circumstance, because you don't control the circumstances in your life, they're neutral. And it's just what you think about them
Mhm.
and what emotions you decide to attach to them
Yeah.
is how you're going to feel about it
Fair
and
enough.
how it's going to affect you.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
What?
noticing that if we take this amount of time on all of our questions, it's
Okay, we'll go
probably gonna
faster.
take forever.
We'll go faster.
So-
Some of them are
Or not
fast.
questions,
Some of
but
mine are
lessons.
faster.
20, yeah. Well, so we won't want to bore you that with these long stories. We'll go a little faster.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So the next one, number 2, but I guess this would be 3 because we're back and forth.
Yeah, we'll see.
Being intentional is important. Now, that might be an obvious one. It's not something that we hear for the first time when we're in our 30s or late
Yeah.
20s or whatever.
And we
but
talk
like,
on the Waiting Warriors a lot about
yeah.
it.
And I mean, it's something you grow up hearing probably. But this year it really started to click for me. And the things that I started to really recognize that needed intentionality was my daddy-daughter time, our date nights, and really like being proactive versus reactive to anything that was thrown at the schedule.
Mhm.
And then when things are thrown at the schedule, if we're already being intentional, it's a lot easier to rewrite a plan or take
Yeah.
something off the calendar than be in a scramble, hoping that I get time with my daughters or that we'll find a weekend to go on a date,
Yeah.
So that was the second one, I think, was it just became all the more eye-opening to me, where in the last 3 months where I feel like I've been really intentional with our calendaring and we've had more discussion on what we were wanting to get out of the holiday
Mhm.
season, even if you look at the year-long plan.
Yeah.
This has gone a lot better.
Yeah.
So that's my next one.
True. My next one's really fast.
Okay.
Life really sucks. But at the same time, life is so, so good. There are
Life sucks.
It's true.
That's okay.
Like it's just
Yeah.
Like we're both spiritual people, so the term like it's a fallen world is very real to us. And whatever that means to like everybody listening, but like life is hard.
Yep.
And it's
Sometimes you got to embrace that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But not even
I
like
think I wrote something like this actually
Yeah.
in one of mine, but we'll get there.
not even like embrace it, but like just because there are hard things, like it is so, so good. And
That's
it's
true.
so, so beautiful. Like
Because with the opposition in it, I mean, because things are so hard and bad sometimes, it helps you recognize how good they are
Yeah.
other times.
Yeah.
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 That is simple. Yet we lose sight of it.
all the time.
Yeah.
You know what helps me remember it though? Is when I go through my pictures, like I had to, because I'm getting a new phone, because ours is really, really old.
We have iPhone 6S, which is
so ancient.
essentially a dinosaur tool at this point,
So
but
ancient.
it works. So
Yeah.
you know,
Except for mine's starting to die, so we need to
True.
replace it. But I had like too many pictures, and so there like wasn't space on the iCloud. So I literally went through all of my pictures on my iPhone
Mhm.
and deleted the 9 million screenshots of like either the grandparents' faces, because FaceTime you can like take a picture
of the kids doing that.
yeah,
So like we
or
screenshot my parents or whatever.
or like pictures of the kids like
Oh,
their
yeah.
double chin. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when
those
they get
kind
our
of
phones
things.
or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But also like so many fun, awesome moments. And not even like the big ones, like going to Disney World was super fun, but even just like the little small moments of
That we
reading
capture.
to the kids.
Yeah.
And,
Or
yeah.
Jen's outfit the other day.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was so awesome.
So yeah. So life is hard.
But
No, you said life sucks.
Life sucks.
But life is also
So good.
so good. Okay.
Mhm. Not just so good. So
Speaking of good,
Mhm.
that's a good segue into my next one.
Uh-huh.
Reading is good.
Oh really?
So, a little background on this one.
We're
I
not
did
readers.
not. I was not much of a reader growing up. and was even quite resistant to it in college. And grad school
pretty
really
sure it's
forced me to read things, but you learn some reading strategies. And while you're
Yeah.
reading, I mean, you're also just like not glancing, but glazing. I mean, I don't know, it's just
Yeah.
speeding through stuff to capture the messages. And there's good reading strategies to really pick up good content without having to go word for word.
Yeah.
But I feel like I probably burnt out after grad school, or to own it more, I probably just reverted back to my reading stupid or whatever type
Yeah.
mentality, which is not healthy. But I set a goal. So in 2020, I was, speaking of intentional, like I was trying to be more intentional this year, and I said I'm
Mhm.
going to read more. It was not a great goal. I didn't say how much I was going to read. I didn't say I was just read more than 2019, which wasn't a lot. It was
Like,
not hard to beat
nothing-
that goal.
Yeah. You read scripture. That's pretty
I
much
read,
it.
yeah, I read the Book of Mormon, and I read like one or two other little books or something, and that was pretty much it. I mean, other than some of the scriptures throughout, but I mean,
Yeah.
like a book, grab off this shelf back here where you
Yeah.
can see it.
The
like,
bookshelf that we have.
No, wasn't touching books really. So to really learn that reading is actually good was beneficial. I set some financial goals, and I read
Mhm.
5 books on finances in the first quarter of the year, and I learned a ton, applied it. We met our goals.
It was awesome.
And it's one of those really silly things to say, but reading actually can help you. So, and I'm ending the year strong. I might not have done great in the middle part, kind of fell off the wagon there, but reading Jocko Willink, Discipline Equals Freedom, and it's a great book. So ending strong and then getting into 2021 with a more firm reading goal to continue on that one.
So 2 books. If you're like, especially I think if you have goals and you're wanting to be more intentional and kind of make your life better, which not everybody's trying to do, but that's like a common thing the beginning of the year. I'm a
Mhm.
fan of doing that, like whenever it comes to your mind, just start today. 2 books totally am loving or have loved is what is it?
Rhinoceros
to
Success.
which
Don't
you
remember
can
who the author
only
is, but, yeah.
but you can only buy through like Ramsey Solutions, like Dave
Well, you
Ramsey.
can probably find it on Amazon. or
No, you
something.
can. I
Oh,
looked.
apparently you can?
Yeah. So he like bought the
Printing
publishing
rights, maybe.
printing, yeah.
Okay.
So you
Either
can-
way, I mean, it's
yeah.
super cheap. It's like
Yeah,
$10 or
yeah,
whatever.
$10.
So,
Totally worth it. Totally goofy. Totally worth it, and very, very motivational.
be a rhino, not a
Yeah.
cow.
We should start that in the Waiting Warriors. We're all
Yeah.
rhinos. And then this Discipline
Equals
freedom. Yeah. I've
Good
only
one.
read a third of it.
Yeah.
But it's really good. It's very blunt. Jocko's like an ex-Marine, right? He's not still a
No,
Marine.
Navy SEAL.
Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
Navy SEAL.
In the SEALs for 20
Just
years. Echelon Front. It's got a
Yeah.
couple other books that I'll read next year. This is just the one I'm starting with. Love his
Yeah.
podcast. The Jocko podcast. But anyway, very motivational. Both
Yeah.
of those books to just kind of get after life and do good things.
Yeah.
So you're up.
So my next one is kind of opposite of books. It's just, not really.
Binge TV.
No,
just kidding.
no.
That's not a good lesson.
The lesson was kind of gratitude and extreme gratitude for technology. Like,
Technology.
we
Okay.
are so, so blessed to be living right now because I like really miss my family, and my family started doing we're on
Marco
Zoom,
Polo.
right?
Marco Polo
yeah.
Zoom. But yeah.
So we started a Marco Polo like chain
Mhm.
thing. Is that what it's called? Chain or
Group.
chat group, whatever.
Chain emails.
Yeah, whatever.
No, it's just a chat group
A chat group.
or whatever.
So like I'm one of 8 kids. So there's however many people plus like spouses, there's however many people on this, and we can send
Mhm.
messages to each other, and we've like during the pandemic we were talking about what everybody was baking, like baking challenge.
and our run times.
Yeah, the guys had a run challenge.
Sean still beat me. I'll get him. I'll
You're
get you,
gonna-
Sean.
yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
you're-
watching or listening, I'm going to get you.
You're getting
It's
there.
only
They
by
had
a few seconds.
mile time.
Close.
But just about like we were able to interact with each other,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
been really, really awesome.
Yep.
But even just like the pandemic did happen, and even like we're super lucky. Our kids are mostly at brick and mortar. They've gone back and forth a few times, but I know there are a lot of people who are still doing
No, they've only done technology
Yeah,
since
yeah,
March. or
only
whatever.
virtual school or only
Yeah.
homeschool. But it's like, thank goodness for Go Noodle and Art for Kids Hub and Cosmic Kids Yoga.
It's true.
And it's like, yes, it's screen time, but they're drawing.
active.
Yeah, they're dancing. One other thing, just things like that. Like, oh, even just like Disney Plus. That was the one. Like,
Mhm.
God bless you, whoever made all those things. It's from the bottom of my heart.
Technology's good.
Yeah, I am so grateful.
My turn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my next one is because we're in lessons learned
Mm-hmm.
to get up early and put first things first. Again, not earth shattering, but
once you
hold
start
on.
doing it, though,
Yeah, my next one will probably be able to expand on this a little bit more. But really, once you start getting into it, it feels so good. It can suck if you're trying to break old habits or routines, or if you feel like you're a night owl or whatever.
I'm not
But
even
in
a
my-
night owl. I'm just a sleeper,
That's true. You like to sleep.
and that's what makes it hard. Like, I don't even really like staying up late. I just like
Yeah,
being asleep.
it's true. But I've noticed that as I've intentionally gotten up every morning at 5 a.m. and I read scripture first, and then I go and work out, like the rest of my day has been more, not just fulfilling, but it feels right.
Mhm.
And that's my first things first. I mean, everyone's might be a little different.
Yeah.
But that's one of the Stephen Covey principles in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, to be proactive. And
This one?
yeah, I think it's putting first
Oh,
things
this
first.
right here.
Whoa.
This is a really, really good book.
So just so happens to be on the desk.
Mhm.
Anyway, but yeah, to get up early. I don't think that part's necessarily in the book. That's more of a Jockoism, as I
Yeah.
like to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a lesson, and I'll touch on it again after the next one I do.
Do you even wake up early on the weekends?
I do. Got up at 5 this morning,
Do
and it's a
you
Saturday.
even wake up early when there's nothing on the schedule that demands you to wake up early?
Well, what is demanding me to wake up early is that I want to get my scripture reading and exercise in before you and the kids wake up, because then it's done, and I can do anything else I want for the rest of the day.
I just have to ask, because that's like
So-
that's my struggle. It's like it's always
Yeah.
been. I've always been, because I'm a sleeper. I've always been the person that like sleeps until the last possible moment.
Yes.
Like even when I was working at Einstein Bagels, I was the baker at Einstein Bagels, or it's just a bagel shop, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how many people know that, but
It's nationwide. I'm
Nation-
pretty sure most
I don't
people
know. I don't know. But I had to be at work at 2:15, 2:30, and I would sleep until I only lived like 8 minutes away, and I would sleep until like 8:10. And I had to be at work at
8:10.
Or sorry,
2:10.
2:10, and I would have to be at work at like 2:30. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
works for
obviously
you.
it's like early morning, but that's how it was like with
Yeah.
school.
Well,
anything,
that's what I was
but
doing
it's-
at the
yeah.
beginning of the year with
But
PT.
I'm better now.
How much time does it take for me to get up, shave, and go,
Yeah.
and be there at formation?
Yeah. And that's when you
Um,
would wake up.
Yeah, but to me, it's so much more fulfilling to get my personal studies in. And I mean, the motivating factor for me, because you said, even if there's nothing to do, to me, that
Yeah.
is the thing to do. I think you, on a podcast here
Yeah.
with the Waiting Warriors, you talked about non-negotiables once.
Yeah. And
I mean,
on Instagram.
if we want to go there, like that's maybe my non-negotiables. Like
Mhm.
I'm going to study scripture and I'm going to exercise.
Yeah.
But if it's a Saturday or a Sunday and there's family things on the calendar, or
or
shopping,
even just not, but
or
the kids are around.
yeah, or the kids are around, I'd rather be spending their awake time doing other things, or our awake time doing other things, and making sure that that's done.
Yeah.
So, that's one.
Cool.
Think you're up.
My phone closes really fast.
She has it turned off after like 10 seconds. Save the battery.
Oh,
Just
okay.
kidding.
So this lesson does not have like a good title. So I'm just gonna say it, is that you can't always just put on a brave face and muscle through things.
Mm. let yourself feel emotions.
Yeah, I think sometimes you need to, like, the phrase, like, you need to put on your big girl pants. I don't know, what's, like, the guy version of
Big
that?
boy pants.
Big boy pants, I don't know.
I don't know. Continue.
But, like, you know, like, sometimes you do need to just put on your big girl pants and get stuff done.
Mhm.
But if you are struggling, it's 100% okay to let people know that.
It's okay to struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to actually see that and to answer when somebody says, like, how are you doing? To say you're struggling instead of
To give honest answers.
yeah, instead of feeling like we have to put on some social
Mhm. Oh, I'm good.
pretense or
Everything's fine.
yeah. Like when you actually let that brave face down
Mhm.
and don't just try to muscle through it, or even like you still do have to kind of muscle through it yourself, but if you put that brave face down and let other people see,
Yeah.
then I learned in 2020 that as I've let people see, which is like so extremely hard for me, I get better answers and not and help, like, but not even like that people have come in and saved the day for me, you know,
Mhm.
like somebody took my kids or whatever. That has happened.
To watch them, not just taking your things.
Yeah, not just
That wouldn't be
stealing them.
good.
But that because I let my guard down, I told somebody what I was struggling with.
Mhm.
In those conversations, I found helpful answers.
Did you cheat and read my next?
No,
lesson?
I didn't. Is that yours?
See, this is part of
too?
the fun of why we didn't look at them, because
Yeah.
that feeds right into my next one.
Yeah.
And that was that life can get difficult and that's okay.
Yeah.
Which I think you actually said in kind of other words earlier, but
Yeah.
you just touched on in a kind of a reframe here.
Yeah.
And I'll tell a little story with this one that meets what you were just saying of just letting the guard down, answering honestly, and not putting on the face. So
Yeah.
I mentioned the quarantines earlier, and I said
Yeah.
I'd circle back. So here we are circling back.
Do-do-do.
So quarantine 1 in July, family out of the house, me by myself, my
Everybody
units in the
just-
field,
yeah.
like it was just miserable.
Was it your whole battalion or the whole brigade?
A whole brigade.
Okay,
Yeah.
so even like
I
chaplain
mean, it was a
friends.
chunk of the brigade.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of my chaplain buddies were out there.
Yeah.
And all my soldiers were out there. At the very least, my battalion. And you know,
Right.
that's my responsibility. I felt
Yeah.
horrible that I couldn't be with them.
Yeah.
And so that weighed on me. Plus, I was sick, and you were gone, and the kids were gone. I just honestly
You weren't allowed to leave.
wasn't allowed to leave the house. I mean, and so I honestly started to get depressed and was depressed afterward for a while. And I was not getting better. So July turned into August. August was turning into September. And that's when we were supposed to go to JRTC.
Yeah.
And so for 2 months, I mean, life was just, I don't know if I would say as far as miserable, but a lot of the days were miserable.
Depressing.
Yeah, depressing. I was depressed.
Yeah.
And you honestly asked me, you asked me, if you aren't, should you get some help?
Yeah.
And I said, look, we got to detach, look at, take out an outer body experience for a second. Look at this from, a bird's eye view.
Like in, what's the movie?
Doctor Strange. Yes. I like to give that example of Doctor Strange where, all of a sudden his spirit's up and he's looking down at himself. Reference Jocko again, he uses the word detach. I don't know. Okay. Either way, it's the same concept.
Yeah.
Where you become aware of your situation. And I said, look, yes, I am depressed. These have not been good days. They have not been good weeks. This has not been good months. July, August, going into September. But I missed a main training event. I was sick.
Yeah.
You were gone. You're back, and then you're back and forth in school. It was the summer vacation.
And you didn't ever kind of dip when like the pandemic hit.
That's true. I was holding strong from March until this point, where life was still good. Yeah. I didn't have an initial dip. I took on the pandemic situation strong.
Yeah.
But this was my hit. Yeah. And so I'm down, and I said, look, when I think about it, though, we're ramping up for JRTC. We're going to go. We're going to hit the box. I've never been to JRTC yet. So there's a good unknown there. That's an additional stressor.
Yeah.
If by the time the holidays start, I'm not feeling up to par, I would definitely go and get help. Like I was not, I'm not afraid or unwilling to go and seek help when I need it.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge advocate of trying to figure it out myself first. And so what happened was in this whole process, though, I also opened up to a chaplain mentor friend of mine.
Mhm.
I also opened up to my brigade chaplain. I let in one of my peers here in my brigade, who's another chaplain, and then a friend of mine of the same denomination that is in Oklahoma at Fort Sill. And so I started bringing people in on it, though. I said, look, I mean, it was a tight knit group, and my brother Brian.
Mhm.
So there's only like 5 or 6 people, including you, that probably knew what I was going through.
Mhm.
No, and my commander. I actually
Yeah,
chose to bring
yeah,
him in
you
on it,
told
and I asked for an office call, and well, we actually got breakfast at the DFAC, and just kind of laid it all out. Said, hey, sir, here's how I've been feeling the last few months. This is what's going on. I'm still effective in my job, but honestly, outside of some of that, it's just not good.
Mhm.
Um,
So you flat out told all those people, I am depressed.
yes, I said I'm feeling depressed. These months, these days, these weeks, these months have not been good. I'm trying to do the right things, but I just was stuck.
Mhm.
And this is a really long story at this point, and I'll try and speed it up. But life can get difficult, and that's okay. You know, I am not so much embraced it, but I acknowledged it.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening at JRTC was I kind of found myself, for lack of a better phrase.
Mhm.
Just being in the box was probably the greatest thing that could have happened to me in that moment. And some people probably say that's the dumbest thing anyone could ever say. But I mean, honestly, like, I got to just love and serve my soldiers and worry about developing my craft as a chaplain in the field.
Yeah.
And like, I learned a ton. I grew a ton. I counseled a ton. It was awesome. I loved it. And really, I mean, to paraphrase scripture and other church leaders and stuff, like, when you lose yourself, you find yourself.
Yeah.
When you give your life to a cause, you find your life. You
Mhm.
know, and that's really what happened. But that's all because I started with acknowledging that life was difficult in those moments, and that it was okay. I mean, the circumstances merited depression, I think.
Yeah.
At least my reaction to it did.
Mhm.
I can't change that, but I can acknowledge it and then move on. So again, sorry, long story.
No, that's okay.
I shouldn't apologize for that. I shared it. And hopefully
Good story.
hopefully it benefits and blesses somebody. But that was a huge life lesson learned from me. And a big shout out to all the people that helped me through it.
Mhm.
Because it wasn't easy, but come November, you know, or probably end of October, actually, I'd been feeling my normal self the last few months.
Yeah.
Really, it worked out.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Good story. Thanks for sharing.
Mhm.
Kind of segues into mine.
Ooh.
And that's that sometimes, because like 2020 was really hard, I'd be shocked and amazed if, what's that from? I don't know. That's a quote from somebody. If like there's anybody who didn't feel some sort of dip in depression and just, you know, like it was
Yeah.
just, it was a really hard year.
Mhm.
But sometimes all you can do is the next right thing. Like I honestly think
Frozen.
that like Frozen 2 is uncanny, like the right word. Just that's not the right word. Like, it is weird how many lessons in Frozen 2 directly apply to 2020.
The 2020 life lesson book.
And it came out
Frozen
like
2.
but like it
That's
came
why you're
out.
grateful for Disney Plus.
Yes.
It came out
But
the year before.
It came
the
out just before
winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like
2019?
October?
2019. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't
Like it
remember.
was late 2019 and then by
Like,
March.
within 6 months.
Yeah. It's weird.
That's true, though. Doing
But
the next right thing.
yeah, but like I had a lot of days when we were singing that song.
Tear, one strong tear going down.
No, we're laughing, but like it's
I know,
true.
it's
Like
true, yeah.
there were
A lot of emotion felt, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, okay, like I had days where I did not want to do anything. I did not want to do what I had to do.
Mhm.
I did not want to do anything. I didn't want my kids to be home. I didn't want to be home. Like I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't want to get groceries or whatever. Or I honestly had days where it was like, what the heck is going to happen to the world? Like, everybody's going to die. Everybody's going to die. Like, and that was when I was way too sucked in. Yeah, I was just way too sucked into the news and
Yes.
had to
pull her back
pull it
from
out
it.
of that. But like, but I had those days where it's
Yeah.
like, no, like we're all gonna die. Which, you know, I'm not super scared of, but just like it made me not want to do anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't
What's
even
the point?
well, not even like what's the point, but like I don't even know what to do.
Oh, okay. Kind of helpless.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, what is the next right thing? For me, normally it was feed my kids because by the time I was done crying and feeling hopeless, they had to eat again.
Fair enough.
But yeah.
You know what?
Frozen 2.
I swear we did not
Love
line
it.
these up. We did not look at each other's
Is
rules.
yours about that too?
No, but my next one is that a patient spouse is an amazing spouse. It's true. I mean, I knew that before. Don't get me wrong. It's not like 8 years in marriage. I finally
Took
figured
this
out that.
long,
No.
that I'm the best thing that ever
But
happened
with
to me.
yes, no, but with the story I just shared, I mean, it took patience for you. I was probably not as helpful. There were nights when I didn't want to do the dishes, or that I wasn't, up for. If we did you wanted me to help with a podcast or something, I probably wasn't in the mood for it. But you were patient with me, and I love you for it. And that a patient spouse is an amazing spouse. So when we can be patient for each other, it's good. So,
He doesn't like PDA, but I'll kiss him on the cheek.
yeah, so that was, I think, a huge lesson. And I mean, I could also say for, different soldiers and, different things that I saw and observed through the year, just patience can go a long ways in any relationship.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that was another lesson.
It's a good one. Kind of another gratitude one. Oh wait, I think I wrote more than 10. 1 second.
Oh, cheater.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh wait, no, never mind. I just am bad at counting. Kind of another grateful. I feel like half of mine are grateful, but I
You can learn
learned that
you're
like
grateful.
gratitude is kind of the fix for bad things.
Ooh. Tell more.
But like I don't know, like there's so much social science to back it up.
Mhm.
And I read a few things about it. Like you just I'm not explaining it very well.
You didn't explain it at all.
Okay, well, just
in your head, you
okay.
just didn't explain it.
I do this all the time.
So yes, there is.
Speaking of patient spouses, this man has to deal with that all the time. Where I'm like, I think I have a conversation in my head.
You just did. I think the world observed it.
Yeah.
Or on the podcast, heard the silence. Yeah, I didn't explain it well. I don't think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe you didn't. I don't think you said a word. But anyway, gratitude. Yes, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but yes, there is science to back gratitude being a beneficial principle.
Yeah,
yes.
It's
mental health, emotional health, spiritual health.
If you are struggling, practice gratitude. Which we have an amazing episode from a really long time ago. I think it's like in the 20s with Cody. COTI from Ammo and Grace, and she talked about like how she used gratitude in her marriage, and I've shared online about how like there's the downloads, and we've done them a few times where it's like we write something that we're grateful for each other every day.
Oh, we did that exercise. Yeah, I remember that.
And it like that helps in your marriage when you're struggling or not struggling and you just want things to be better. But
time out real fast. Don't wait for marriage to get bad to make it better.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hoping all of the waiting warriors out there know that, but it is a common thought that like
education.
Oh, why would I get marriage counseling or read marriage books if I'm, if we're okay, we're okay. We're gonna keep being okay. Well, yeah, but
stuff comes up. Like just
not just stuff comes up, but it's just good to put time and effort into growing and nurturing that. Anyway, back to you with gratitude.
Thank you. It's all about me. Okay. Just kidding. Well, just that, like when I'm having a hard time, if I really practice gratitude and not just like sit for one day and think of the grateful things, but like bring, I kind of learned about the concept of a gratitude practice and something you do every day and it can look in like so many different ways. I've heard about like you just list 5 things every
Mhm.
day, or like first thing in the morning and or last thing at night.
Yeah. Or a
Or-
specific journal set aside for
Yeah,
it.
specific journal set aside for it. There's like a whole bunch of different journal prompts you can find online. Or there, like I have even found like, I guess they're kind of, it's technically like a meditation, like a guided
Mhm.
meditation, and different things you can be grateful for and all that kind of stuff. But that is really, really beneficial. And it's not just like some foo-foo thing that you can
No.
do. Like
It's good.
and it's not like, oh, well, I'll get in my head and make it great.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's like, it is sound science and just a sound principle of that gratitude. Not like fixes things. I think it just like fixes your head.
It helps.
Yeah.
Yep. Good. Now that we've said that, my next lesson learned in 2020 that I wrote down is don't buy into everything you hear. So
I didn't just hear it. It sounds I like
no.
research the science from multiple sources.
I know. Hey, I'm not rejecting your science, and I told you I agree with that. I just think it's funny that
you don't believe in
here we
the
are.
study
No, I'm
that I
saying-
heard somewhere.
Oh my goodness, don't.
Okay, so here's the
No,
thing.
there was way too much time on that story.
Okay, I'll have to share that funny story.
Bottom line is, I made up some studies about
Tickling a pregnant woman.
when she was pregnant with Emma,
Yeah.
I think.
And
Yeah,
how
no,
it
there
would
was sound
benefit
science
me.
that it would help her be happier.
Uh-huh.
And I guess there wasn't science to back it up. I don't know.
Baloney.
Anyway, what I wrote down for 2020, this is my 7th one. Don't buy into everything you hear. It can apply to a lot of things, but I mean, looking at the year, you can look at media and social media and how many ever resources, and you need to really dig into like where is it coming from. But I'm saying more specifically for myself, like JRTC, as I said, everyone says JRTC sucks. It's the worst thing on earth. It's horrible. It's, and granted, I recognize I wasn't in the suck as bad as some of the soldiers and other leaders and stuff, just by virtue of my unit and position.
Just lay there for
but on the flip side of that, then an approach and mentality to everything can impact your experience within it. So just because everyone says something is one way, if you go into it with that bias, that might be all you see.
Yeah.
And so I was recognizing this year that as I go into things, trying to give it blank slate, and put some of my biases to the side, maybe be aware of them so I can look for it.
Mhm.
But on interactions with people, or experiences, or relationship dynamics. I mean, people will say or write or do a lot, but you just don't need to buy into everything you hear.
Yeah.
So that's my number 7.
Which like kind of goes perfectly into my next one.
We need to stop saying that. They're gonna stop believing us.
Okay, no, it's true though. My
No,
next
it's true.
one
We
is
didn't look at each other.
Yeah, I really, for my brain to be healthy, which is like such an interesting concept that we learned this year of like, if you think about it, not necessarily as like mental health, but like keeping your brain
health.
Yeah, brain
The,
health.
What is it? The Brain Warriors Way podcast.
Yeah,
I think it's a book too.
Really
Brain Warriors Way by the Amen. A-M-E-N. Anyway.
But just really interesting concept to do things to keep your brain healthy. But one of the things that I like realize is I need to pay close attention to what I'm putting in my brain.
Yeah.
And kind of linking to intentionality, but like scrolling all, like if that's all I'm doing,
Not
that's
helpful.
and that's putting things in my brain.
Yep.
Like I don't think I ever thought of it that way. Or even just like who you hang out with and who you're talking to, depending on who they are, that puts things in your brain. The amount of news or where you get news from, that puts things in your brain. And I kind of had that realization like in October, where it just like clicked, and then since then I've been very intentional about what goes in my brain, specifically I mean, well, with anything, but what I've really noticed the difference in is with news. Like I've gotten my news from different sources and and listened to different people's explanations about them, and because of their approach of being just straight like fact instead of
Agenda
fear.
driven
Yeah,
and
yeah,
theater
yeah.
driven.
And
Yeah.
even if it's just the agenda of
Well, no,
we need to sell them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's what I meant by
Yeah.
I mean, because it's a lot of news is clickbait. I can't remember what I was
Right,
listening
yeah.
to recently that talked about that, but I
It's
mean, our
just all
brains and our
fear.
bodies respond most to things that are like fear
Right.
or the need for help, like
Yeah.
whatever triggers our primal instinct.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, news articles, they
Yeah.
want clicks, they
Yeah,
want
and
reads.
they need
So when you
because
put
that's
that
how they
catchy
make money.
title or you put that spin on it,
Yeah.
it's gonna people are gonna go, oh, I must know this, and so
But it has been like geeky fascinating to me to see
Mhm.
how my attitude on the world and world events has
Has changed.
changed
Yeah.
just by changing that.
Good.
It's been
It's a good
interesting.
one.
Mhm.
So my next one, setting goals is good. Actioning goals is better.
Oh.
So I mentioned a little bit earlier, like the financial goals we set. You know, I was very specific on that. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to apply more
You shot for the stars too.
with investing and saving and really just getting a better grasp on what money is and what we can do with it. I mean, money's an inanimate thing. Like
Yeah.
it can't choose what it does. It only does what you tell it to do.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what to do with it appropriately, it will be wasted. It will be gone. It will not be in your account when you retire. I mean, all those things, right?
Mhm.
So I set that goal and I actioned it. But there were other goals I set this year that now that we're at the end of it, I did not really action well. I alluded to one earlier, the reading. You know, read more. I did that, but I did that to a point, and then I let it fall off, and then kind of picked it back up. And so, you know, setting a goal is cool, but actioning the goal is where the power is.
Yeah.
And even if you fall short of it, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because
I fell short on my goals.
it's true. We actually had a good conversation
Yeah.
about that the other day. But you almost hit it.
I'm way better off than
having never set anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's I don't know. Again, it's a very basic principle, but without having solid action steps, it's not
What's that
as
book?
powerful.
The 4 disciplines.
4 disciplines of execution.
Yeah,
It's
that's a
Franklin
good book.
Covey book. I can't remember who the author is. It's not the Coveys, but
is it like Chris McNeely?
it's one of them. No, but it's something like that. It's not in here right now.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah.
But that's like typically it's viewed as like a business book. But if you're like,
I mean, it is a business book, but it has a lot of personal application to it.
I'm just saying, like, if you're like, okay, but like,
so I said that very definitive. I think it's a business book, and they have 90% of the examples in there are business driven.
Business, and you don't have to really read things.
But it's principles of execution in general, though.
Yeah.
But it's got some good goal setting concepts and how to, get some really actionable things.
Yeah. That actually, I just know that has been like my struggle at the beginning of 2020. I was like, okay, I have these goals, and I've had goals for years, but I just haven't ever felt like I have been able to action them, or I was doing actions and it wasn't really getting somewhere. So it has been really nice to having read that book, and then I did the things. I didn't quite meet the goal, but I also didn't start it right away. But I'm still way better off
than where you were.
Yeah. Yep. Cool beans. How many more do you have?
2. So
2?
You should have 3.
I should have 3? Okay. I am so thankful for a happy and healthy family because we really needed each other this year.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a little choked up. But by happy and healthy, yes, we've had healthy bodies and all that kind of stuff, but we have put a lot of effort into. We are not a perfect family by any means. But we've put a lot of effort and time into changing ourselves, into helping teach our kids and creating a loving home. And whether it's like you think about the fact that our family was home together only, like the kids were not playing with people for like almost 2 months, like, or when you think about the times where we've both individually struggled and like the joy that our kids have brought,
Yep.
like we just really relied on each other in a lot of ways this year. And I am so grateful for that like that unit exists.
So to kind of reframe this as a lesson learned, because that's a gratitude point, but I'm
Yeah.
not hearing the lesson. Is it that it's important to have an intentional,
Yeah.
healthy family?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that it's, I guess the lesson that I learned is it's not just you do that because that's what people say you should do. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That like you should be good parents. It's that you do that because not like because of what you get out of it, but because that really helps you in life. Like
Yeah.
you and your family need each other. And it's not just like you grow up and have kids because
Yeah.
that's
'Cause
what you
that's
should
what they
do,
did,
or
and that's what you should do. Or
Yeah.
that's what the church
And-
says, or what, I mean,
yeah,
whatever the
yeah,
reasons might
yeah. But like that, like it that is what makes life so good.
be. I like it. So, my next one, I'm gonna be a little vulnerable here.
Oh,
Number 9. Well, for 9 for me, I think we're on, what would this
Yeah.
be, 16 as at total?
17,
17, 18, 19,
20.
Yeah, so I guess 17. So we got 4 left. Owning who I am is cool. Even though I'm probably one of the most uncool people,
I think you're the coolest.
in my opinion. But, So I'm still finding myself, even 30 years into life. And I'm learning to not compare myself to others.
Mhm.
And I think I've probably struggled with that more in my life than I would want to admit. But God made me unique. My
Mhm.
family situation growing up makes me unique. Our marriage, our kids, all the life goals, the career path. I mean, everything about me is unique, and that's not to say anything special about me, but that's everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone. If we all just own who we are, the good, bad, and the ugly, like it's a blessing,
Mhm.
and it can really help drive good, healthy relationships. It can really drive higher, I guess. I mean, maybe self-esteem, but really, I'd rather say self-worth.
Okay.
That hey, I'm maybe not the most high-speed tactical guy, but that's also because I'm a chaplain. I'm not, I'm not the commander. And
But even amongst the chaplains, like there are higher speed.
higher speed.
Or, well, I don't know what the
Yes,
right word
no, I mean,
is, but like,
but I, I have my blessings. I mean, the diligence and the patience and some of the counseling skills. I think some things that people have complimented me on before are a blessing, or the spiritual sensitivity that I feel like I have sometimes. And those are some of the more serious side, but then also just the goofy things that I mean we don't talk about much.
that you have like a ridiculously amazing talent with wit and coming up with parodies for things. Like I'm pretty sure I could make $1 million off of you.
Well,
easy. If
I'd like to see half of that.
just-
We
We just recorded all the things. Like, what did you do this morning?
I don't know.
You're just
What did I
making
do this
breakfast and you casually like took whatever song it was. I don't even remember
I
because
don't
you
know.
just do it all the time.
But yes, and I mean, but to be me and have it be fun and
And to be you with more people.
with more people, yes, and yeah. So I mean, like I have Star Wars Legos that I bought to play with the kids and
An
stuff.
advent calendar.
An advent calendar,
It's
a
been
Star
a
Wars
while.
Lego advent calendar. That, and then I don't know, like you said, the quick wit and stuff. Like it's not very
You don't do
common
it in
for me to
all
have it
circles.
come out in all
Yeah.
circles. But an example was just this last week. We're having our closeout criteria for block leave, and so everyone's
What does that
crushing
mean?
numbers.
Not
Oh, sorry.
everybody's familiar with it.
I mean, just
So
a
it's
number
a
of tasks
meeting
that we have to get done. It's not just a meeting. It's this laundry list of tasks that we need to get done to close up shop so people can go on leave.
Right, but what's us? That's
Us, the
your
unit.
commander.
That's the commander, the soldiers. I mean, from the top to the bottom.
Okay.
Here's what the brigade and the battalion want and need done.
Okay.
So we're all doing these things, and I had to do out something that I had to get done and accomplished, and I was falling short. But thankfully, in this meeting, all of a sudden I got text and I got folders and papers coming, to me, like literally in the meeting, accomplishing this task. And so right as it turns to me to report, I'm like scrounging, looking at my numbers, and my commander basically said, "Chaplain, are we good to go, or which company do we need to hold back for block leave?" And I go, "Sir, I would have said this company, but I think we're good. Merry Christmas to everybody." And like, just, I don't know, off the cuff. It was more smooth than that in the meeting, but everyone just kind of chuckled and we went on.
Yeah.
As opposed to, "Yes, sir, our numbers are, we're good to go." Like,
yeah.
I could have been strict and straight on it, but just to kind of free flow me a little bit more. And I'm doing that more casually and more, not carefree, but appropriately in more circles, like you said.
Yeah.
Just kind of allowing myself to be me, and owning who I am and letting that be cool.
Yeah. Okay, my number 9 is, so like, again, see, you had all these like good titles. I'm just not as good at that. So I think I realized it really hit home to me that difficulties can either harden you or soften you. And I guess the lesson that I learned is that I want to always intentionally let them change whatever I need to in myself to let them soften me. Soften.
What do you mean by harden or soften you?
I think, okay, so like 2020, two big examples, like obvious examples, the pandemic and then everything that's been happening with race.
Mm-hmm.
And I have noticed a lot of people are like kind of going into two circles, or at least they're the loudest ones. I actually know that it's a lot different than what people like think it that way. And it's like, I think both of those groups, and again, there are more than those, but those two groups seem to get really stern and like they're grasping on.
Entrenched in their
ways. Entrenched in their ways. And
so with the challenge coming from understanding correctly, sorry, I cut you off. Instead what? And
well, just instead,
understanding it.
Not just like entrenching in my beliefs, but I think I really learned, I'm obviously not perfect, but I started to learn how to question and ask, am I actually right in this?
And the old ego check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And how can I be more active and like loving through things instead of entrenching and digging down and like needing to feeling like I need to stand my ground versus, I don't know, what's the opposite of that? Just opening up and opening up my heart to more possibilities.
Being humble, being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And and really analyzing and questioning, but not in a bad way, what your biases, beliefs, presumptions, all of that are and what they mean.
Yeah. Okay. And some of them, I realized, no, I think I am.
You're on the right side and you're good to go.
I think I'm good with where I am with that. And others, I feel like I was kind of way off and needed to change a few things.
All right.
Entrenched, that's the right word.
Okay. Yeah. Shall I do my last one? Okay. So my number 10 and our number 18, and these aren't necessarily in any particular order of like importance, by the way.
Mine are the most important.
Hers would be 1 through 10. Mine would be 11 through 20. No. The last one that I wrote down was that living the dream, like air quotes, living the dream might not be exactly what I thought, but it's still really cool. So what I mean by that is in 2020, we mentioned how I've mentioned quite a bit about intentionality and goal setting. Yeah. And a lot of that stemmed from a 2019 that was me basically just holding on for the ride.
That was a great
because in 2018, I started to realize my goals, meaning for 5 years, all I had been doing was geared toward becoming an active duty Army chaplain.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like 5, 6 years of just school and work and paperwork and meeting criteria and
residencies
training
yeah.
and Army education, civilian education, honing in my skills and craft. And then all of a sudden I became an active duty Army chaplain.
Mhm.
And while some of the other goals were surface level and, maybe I don't know if I call them vain per se, but like if you're going to be in the Army, there's certain things you might want to do. Like I wanted to earn a special skills badge. I
Mhm.
wanted to deploy. I wanted, I wanted to, earn and pin the rank of captain. Like there were things that I wanted to do. And I was blessed to come into a unit in a situation where I got to do all of those things within like the first
Year and a
6
half.
months, year. No, even
Yeah.
it was like less than a year
Well, that's true.
of us getting here to Fort Campbell.
Yeah. that's true.
And I kind of got lost, honestly. I was living the dream, but it also was almost like, okay, now what? Like,
Yeah.
and it's not really what I thought it would be, but it was at the same time. I love being in the 101st. Like we've had great training.
Mhm.
We had the deployment. There have been awesome opportunities. I love the soldiers and command teams and everyone that I've been able to serve and serve with. But at the same time, it's like we've been married 8 years now, almost 9. I'm a father of 4, and just there are also challenges on the family life side and on the career side that I wouldn't have seen.
Yeah.
That even though I'm doing everything I've wanted to do, everything I like grew up dreaming of doing, it's like, oh, sometimes the question is, well, is this it? Or
Mhm.
am I missing something? Or this is actually really
Or why is
hard.
it-
And
yeah,
like,
why
why
is
is
it
this,
like this?
why is this not what I, thought it would be? But that's okay. It's still really cool because there's parts that I didn't know about
Mhm.
that have been awesome. I mean, I what comes to mind immediately are some of the spiritual experiences I've had helping soldiers where like I knew I'd help soldiers, but I don't think I realized to what degree sometimes. And it's
Mhm.
not everybody. I mean, there's a handful of these ones that I would, almost deem sacred in that like, I just felt the spirit was strong that I was here for a purpose. I mean, these soldiers and I rubbed rubbed shoulders to use the term, just that we met. We got to work together, and I just so happened to be their chaplain at their moment of need.
Mhm.
And I don't know how they feel about it, but I feel like in our meeting and in our discussions and conversations and, finding ways to work through some of that, it has been so fulfilling. And some of those other, difficult days or weeks where it's just, to quote my good friend Joe, that would ask the question, what are we doing? Like, why are we being, tasked this, or, what is going on, or as parents, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a million dishes and there's poop on the floor because a diaper was ripped off. And there's like, I mean, all this weird garbage. And you're like, what is this really what being a parent is?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, but then there's the sweet moments like June running to Daddy when I get home.
Every
right?
single time.
Every single time I walk
Even
through that
when
door.
you just go out to take out the trash.
And it's like, oh, that is the best thing. Like that is living the dream, right? It's so
Yeah.
cool. I wouldn't have thought that just like the little pitter patter and arms, reaching around me for a hug was going to be like the highlight of my day.
Yeah.
But I knew I wanted to be a dad. So anyway, just in 2020, it really, as I reflect on it, have realized that living the dream isn't always what we think it will be, or at least it's not always what I think it will be.
Yeah.
But it's awesome. It's still really cool. And I'm super grateful for everything that I've been able to do.
Yeah.
So that's my last one. What's yours?
You actually know this one. We talked about it. So
Oh,
sorry.
was this your one freebie that you kind of let me in on?
Yeah. Let him in on a secret here and there. But mostly I just keep away from you.
Jeez.
Just kidding. So this one is again super grateful. So what I gotta like reframe it. What is the lesson learned? You can reframe it. I'll say it.
Okay. What's your gratitude? We'll pull the lesson out.
I am super grateful for my spiritual and religious upbringing and the belief and knowledge that we have a prophet and he guides us. I know.
I remember when we talked about this one, and that we live in a place where we can do that.
Yeah.
That was kind of the lesson learned, was like how awesome it is to be in a country where we can have that benefit and blessing.
Yeah. Because not everybody does. Like
we take it for granted.
Yeah.
But this year it all became all the more prevalent.
Yeah.
in your mind.
Yeah.
I remember when
Yeah.
we talked about it.
And just for us and our religion, and I've said a million times, and I will always stand by it. Like, not that I don't care about you guys, but like, it doesn't matter to me what your religion is. I still want to be friends with you.
Yeah,
Like,
we're all for everyone
yeah.
believing
Yeah,
what they
whatever
desire
you
and
believe.
being able to worship
Yeah.
as they desire.
Yeah. I am just super, like, cannot express the gratitude for the peace that I have received and the crazy, like, I have never lived a year crazier than 2020.
Mhm.
And I have had really hard times in
Mhm.
my life. This has not been like a smooth coasting of almost 29 years, but it's like just been a lot in this year. And I'm really grateful for the peace that comes for following a prophet.
Love.
Yeah.
It's a good lesson.
Number 20.
All right. So that is 20 lessons for 2020.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. And I think there could
There
obviously
so
be
many
more that was said. Those
Yeah.
were the ones that I think came to
Yeah.
mind and stood out the most.
Yeah.
But hopefully, my hope is that for anybody watching or listening, that you gained something from these. Maybe some of them overlapped with lessons learned for you. But ultimately, 2021 is around the corner, and there's no guarantee that 2021 will be better, quote unquote,
Yeah,
better
I don't think it's like
than
the
2020.
The New Year's ball isn't going to drop and all of a sudden everything's going to disappear. Like,
yeah, but I think if we could add like maybe a bonus lesson learned, it's really, I think, taking ownership of the life that we do have, regardless of what's going on around us, and making the most of it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going into 2021 with. I've got my other note here on my phone with goals that are already lined up with certain action steps that I'm ready to take.
Yeah.
And something might come up that tries to derail it. I mean, we're set to PCS. I mean, there's a 2021 for us at least is geared up to be a pretty busy, crazy quote. I shouldn't say quote unquote again. I've been saying that too much, but I just said it anyway. Anyway, it'll be another interesting year, 2021.
Yeah.
And anybody else out there listening, just take charge of it, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's what I've got. Is there a way that you end these usually? I don't remember.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yes.
I think it'd be cool to hear on Instagram. Maybe we'll just, if you like, screenshot and do like a story or something and share what your biggest lesson. I don't know. For now, let's go with
we
that.
want to hear from you.
Yeah, I want to hear what your lessons learned were. Maybe I'll do a question box during the week after this one has aired.
Release the podcast.
But I like hearing what other people have learned, which is why I thought of this idea. But yeah, I just think a lot of times we look at 2020 and think about 2020 as like, oh,
good thing that's over.
Yeah,
or man, I just want it to be done.
Yeah.
But there's a ton that was good that came out of this, which we just talked about.
Yeah,
just a portion of it.
Actual good things did happen, and then just lessons learned, just because craziness happened.
A lot of good lessons are learned in really tough times.
Yeah.
So.
Which brings us to our classic ending. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it has to be miserable.
Oh, yeah.
Have a good week, guys.
All right.